see your mother. You were only given one. Go see your mother. And you know that you will never have another. Go see your mother. Go see your mom.
Welcome to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. I'm your host, Sadia. This is my mother, Hema.
Yes, sweetheart.
Hey. How's your week?
Baruch Hashem. Can't complain. Productive.
You know what's funny, by the way?
What?
I was at work. I was at work today, and one of my coworkers, was just making a small conversation, and she's like, "Oh, how are you?" I'm like, "Oh, thank God." And she's like, "No, how are you?" I'm like, "Thank God." Like, what do you want from me? And then I realized, I'm like, no, like the response she was expecting was, "I'm good. How are you?" Something like that. So it's kind of funny. Did you ever have anything like that where like it was kind of like almost like a cultural difference of greetings or expressions?
And sometimes I'll say thank God, or sometimes if people help me out in something, like say I'm working through like a problem setting up a flight.
Mm-hmm.
Like that happened a couple times where I was trying to set up my flight online on my app, and for some reason the screen just froze.
Mm-hmm.
And there was nothing I could do about it. I clicked off, I clicked out, I clicked on again. I powered off the phone, brought it back on, and there it was, the same frozen screen. So I called the airlines, and this lady was very, very helpful without charging me anything extra. She made the flight for me, understanding that, hey, it looks like there's like something wrong with the computer, today, that the screen froze. And I said to her, thank you, God bless you, thank you. And she says, God bless you too. And so that was nice. I remember Alav Shalom Rachel Kaplan was always in the habit of saying, when people asked her, she goes, "I'm fine, thank God." She was always saying, "Thank God, thank God." And so somebody who she said, "Thank God" to, I don't know if it was a non-Jewish person or Jewish person, said, "Yeah, I guess you do have to thank God every day. I guess you do have to thank God if you're okay," or something like that.
Cute.
Although I like the phrase, the old saying, "If my name's not in the obituary, it's a good day." I say some of my Spanish co-worker asked me, "How are you? Fine. How's your day? How you fine?" And so I say to them in Spanish, "Todo está bien. Yo no estoy muerto." Everything's okay. I'm not dead.
Cute. So you want to actually talk about your grandmother today?
My mother's mother. Yeah. I was thinking about her this past week. I'm trying to think when her yahrzeit was. Gosh, I don't remember. Oh my God. I don't remember when her yahrzeit was. But she was quite an amazing person. We talked about her before, how she never learned how to read or write because where she grew up in Russia, the government, suppressed education for the lower classes. But she handled the finances in the family. She taught herself math. And I think my grandfather was a tailor and she was a seamstress. I don't know if they had their own business for a while. My mother told me she worked in a factory, in a garment factory, but that she basically taught herself math and was able to totally compute all sorts of, like their bank statements, their investments, interest, this and that. My bubby one time, "How is it you don't know how to read or write, but you do math amazingly?" And she says, "Oh, anybody can teach themselves math." That was a response. Anybody can teach themselves math. Tell that to most American students in school today. But one of the things she did too, she was a seamstress. And my mother said that she could, and she did this with me one time. She sewed a couple of things for me where without a pattern. where she could look at you, just look at you up and down, take a few measurements, and then sit down and make a skirt or a dress or something that within hours. My mother said that when she and her sister, say like they had a party or something coming up or a dance at school and they needed a new dress. So the agreement was she would spend the whole day making their dress for their party or their, event, but they had to totally take care of the house. They had to clean the house, do the laundry. They had to do the cooking so that she could totally concentrate on that dress. And my mother said, by the end of the day, that dress was totally made, except for maybe all she had to do was maybe put the hem on.
Wow.
And this is without a pattern. And not only that, my mother said, like, she remembers, like, some of the electronics in the house, like like an iron or a lamp, something it was broken. In those days, things were a little simpler. People would actually repair their electronics by themselves. They, their irons, their lamps. Now it's like, just throw it out and buy a new one. $10. I'm going to buy a new, $10, $20. I can buy myself a new iron. I'm not going to bother repairing it. But what she would do is she could take it apart and figure out which wires went where and which wires had to be replaced. And like I said, this was a woman who didn't know how to read or write and could just, she sewed on a Singer sewing machine, which was from the early 1900s. That's how I learned to sew on that Singer machine. I think we talked about that before, about it didn't run electronically. It ran by a system of pulleys, and it had this pedal on the bottom. You put your feet on the pedal and you move the pedal back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with your feet, and moving the pedal back and forth with your feet got these pulleys going. And that's how you sewed. So you got a nice workout while you were sewing, moving this platform back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And it would break. She would fix it. She could figure out which screws went where, which gears. She could look at the gears and tell you, well, this gear goes this way, this gear goes that way. Therefore, this pulley goes this way. It was like a rubber belt. She could figure out which rubber belt went where to pull what wheel, and she could fix it herself.
Interesting. It kind of always has those moments where it's like you realize how talented your grandparents really were, or noticing how amazing your parents really were. After you're a child, after you're a teenager, you start reminiscing, looking back, and realizing what a good job they really did. Did you feel that way, I guess, with your parents as well?
I got to think about that.
Yeah.
Maybe the next episode. I don't know. But then there's something else that my bubby did. There was when I was in college, she took this black crepe material and made me a black crepe, and the mini skirts were in. So she made me a black crepe mini skirt for a date that I was going out that weekend. And when my date complimented me on my skirt, I said, oh, yeah, my bubby made this for me. And he goes, wow. He said, I'd love to meet your bubby. So then when I was in 6th grade, we had a whole presentation about Hawaii. You know what a moo is?
Sounds familiar, but no.
Okay. When the Christian missionaries came to Hawaii, naturally the native Hawaiian women were very, I would say, unclad, scantily clad, just skirts, nothing on the top maybe. So the Christian missionaries had to come up with a dress, since it was very tropical climate, very hot, that was sinuous, but that was light and airy and could be comfortably worn in very hot weather. And they came up with, this is the explanation they taught us in 5th grade. They came up with the dress called the muumuu. The muumuu was like this balloony type dress that covered, say, like maybe a little bit above the elbows or something, and went all the way down to like past the knees, and it was light. It was a light airy dress so that it could be comfortably worn in the hot climate of Hawaii. And so my bubby made me a muumuu for our sixth grade Hawaiian presentation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have any pictures of this anywhere?
No, I don't. Another outfit my bubby made me was I didn't know how to sew, but I found this material. I forgot where I bought it. At one of the fabric stores or something. I forgot where, Woolworths, one of the department stores. And it was like this pretty paisley material. So I thought, well, maybe I can make a shift out of it, like some sort of, simple dress out of it. And my bubby saw it laying on the table, and she says that this material reminded her of the peasant dresses the peasant outfits that the Goisha peasant girls wore in Russia. And she decided, she said, I'm going to make you a Russian peasant dress, peasant outfit. It was a gathered skirt and then a vest that matched it with strings in the front that you tied. And I wore it with this white, like peasant type blouse.
Did you don't really have these dresses still, do you?
Oh, and I don't know. You move around, you get older, you get fatter.
Mm-hmm.
you give them away, maybe you lose them. I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't.
Interesting.
But what moving is like. Moving is like, you do, move from place to place. You do lose track of things.
No, you'll realize how much crap you really have, and you get rid of a lot of it. I get it. That's fine. I was just curious because it's like, I remember as a kid going into Bobby and Zadie's house and looking at all this stuff and finding all these toys you used to play with as a kid and play with them myself and just have a lot of fun with it. That's where when I think about it, like, what else does everyone, have, or they still keep, or do you try to keep at least,
Mm-hmm.
That's really where I start thinking about stuff. It's just like how much have you kept over the years, and does it really matter? Because do you, like, for example, I know Tati had like these old toys from when he was a kid, and we played with them and they broke, and he was very upset about it. I have these old books from when I was a kid, and reading them now, and if they got ruined, they got ruined. I don't care. You know what I mean? I'm not so emotionally attached to them or emotionally attached to various things.
I do have like a small model car that's still in the closet here. That's from your father, and I have your bottle of, I think, mikvah water from Spas.
It wasn't mine, but yeah, sure.
No, I have some.
It's not mine.
Well, whose was it?
I don't know. I'm just letting you know.
No.
It wasn't mine.
Someone asked me not to throw it out, whoever it was. So anyway, it's still sitting
Yeah,
there.
no worries. It's holding on to things. It's cherishing things and understanding, having sentimental value, and how much sentimental value do you really want to put onto something unless you want to just throw it all away. I don't know. After I cleared out the house and things like that when you guys left to Florida, it kind of made me realize like it doesn't matter. Like I have a few things I want for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I just enjoy having, but passing down, I don't know. I just don't really care about that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything you want to pass down?
Good question.
That's a very good question.
Anything I want to pass down? Actually, the jewelry, except for the earrings I'm wearing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like good jewelry, I distributed among your sisters because I felt I was going to save them, put them in my will and save them as an inheritance. But then it occurred to me, I said, what are you waiting for? I said, what? Give it to them now. Let them enjoy it now. Let you see them enjoy it now while you're alive.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's also pretty important about, being able to give those things to your family and watch and look at their faces and enjoy that. before, everything just comes to a close. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything particular, I guess, you want to say to the family or give to the family, like while you're still around, in order to like really appreciate it?
The greatest gift is a mother's smile.
Yeah, I see the disinterest in the conversation. Okay, I'm just trying to be helpful, but that's fine. That's okay. It is what it is.
Let's talk about
Oh, it's a conversation. I'm just curious. That's all.
goodies after I passed on to greener pastures.
Yeah, like there is anything, anyways. Anybody would really be interested in. And I guess was when
There was
you're.
something else I had in the notes too.
Oh yeah.
Darn it, that I wanted to. Yeah, remember we were talking about last week the harder challenge rather than the easy thing that comes naturally. That you have people that just enjoy challenges. And I was thinking in terms of relationships too. I'm sure a lot of us have seen this where, say, a guy or a gal will pursue a marriage partner and just pursue them and pursue them. And then once they're married, a few years later, they're divorced because they totally lose interest. Because I guess for some people, the hunt is more exciting than the catch. I've heard of stories like this.
Did you experience any of that when you were dating?
All teenagers do. I remember times like having a crush on a guy and trying to do all sorts of things to get him to ask me out. And finally, he asks me out, and we go out, and I see he's not what I thought he was.
I have a question.
Because usually, when
Okay.
teenagers have a crush, they're usually in love with the idea of who they think this person is, the fantasy of who they think this person is. And then when they get to know who the person really is, it's like, quite a different story. It's like the air letting out of the balloon.
What do you think about people that have these standards that they want out of their, future wife, future husband, and they have this whole long grocery list, and they are waiting out, and they're waiting and waiting until they're like in their mid-30s, late 30s, early 40s, trying to find like the one. Do you think that's important to have a standard, or like kind of make it a crapshoot and see what happens?
Let's put it this way: the reason they're still single in their late 30s and early 40s is because of those stupid expectations.
So, what kind of expectations should somebody have for marrying?
Basically, someone who it's like I don't know, it's like a glove, like putting on a glove. You want someone you might. I once heard someone say you marry for potential, and the potential is that the two of you get along and can communicate with each other, and you feel comfortable with each other. You want someone who's even-tempered. I mean, if you're dating and this person shows any sign whatsoever of a temper, that's not good. That's definitely a red flag. Someone who basically you don't want anybody who's critical, because that's how domestic abuse begins. It usually begins with criticism, and then it escalates. I mean, if the person can't accept you for who you are and has to criticize you, then you don't want that. You don't want to be in a relationship with that individual.
Interesting. I mean, do you think that dating trends have kind of shifted away from toxic behaviors, or it's just life in general where it kind of happens whether you like it or not?
In certain respects, I find, especially girls, being more educated about looking for signs of a potential abuse. Because let's face it, in the case of domestic abuse, it's the woman who's more vulnerable. But unfortunately, despite the education, despite the information that's out there, just go on YouTube and look at, go look at Judge Judy.
Yeah.
Crazy cases about boyfriends and girlfriends, and some of the girlfriends that come in and they're charging their ex-boyfriends so many thousands of dollars in medical bills after they beat them up, and they have the pictures from the hospital. And Judge Judy sometimes gets very frustrated with some of these people that they have looked for relationships with these total losers, and then when their lives are messed up, they wonder why. Have you ever watched Judge Judy?
I've watched a couple of
Yeah.
times. I think it's a lot of it's actually staged.
Really staged?
Yeah, it's not that
But
it's staged. It's just that it's not, I wouldn't say, I don't know about Judge Judy, but I know, I think it's Judge Mathis or People's Court, where it's just, you have like a small little, issue. So they just put you on, but you can do whatever you want. There's really it's really like reality TV kind of, you can, you do have a lot of free range of how you want to present yourself, and the research on people is very minimal.
I mean, what frustrates her is when you get these couples in there who the boyfriend is not working or has never worked and hasn't gotten training or education in anything in particular. And this girl was in love with him and lended him and gave him all this money and gave him a car and gave him this and gave him that. And then after a while, she realizes that, hey, he's just been using her all this time. And so she breaks up with him, and then she goes to court. And now she wants, say, the $5,000 back for the car and all the things that she gave him, all the money that she lended him and everything. And Judge Judy just looks at these women. It's like, she tells these women, use your brains. I mean, that's another thing. If you date someone who doesn't seem to have direction, it doesn't have to be college, but at least training in a particular, profession, working and, say he's working in a job where he's building himself up or she's building herself up, then this is a very good indication of someone who is very grounded and very directed. Would probably make a good husband or father or, wife, a mother. But if you have someone who is just totally not in any direction and is borrowing money from you or asks you for this, that, then that's definitely, run away from that.
What can you,
Don't even, I wouldn't lend them money at all. I wouldn't. In fact, my sister was telling me about this friend of hers who met this man on the internet. And for quite a few weeks, she was telling my sister, she goes, this is such a wonderful man. He's so wonderful. He's amazing. We talk to each other over the internet. We we Zoom each other over the internet. We, what is it, video call?
yeah.
And then after about a month of them like virtually dating like this with virtual date, he says, oh, by the way, can you lend me $2,000?
Oh gosh. So what like, out of curiosity, like what exactly happened?
Goodbye. She was
Yeah.
smart. She was smart enough to cut him off.
Good.
And
Good.
delete. Then press block this caller.
I mean, it's dating is, I feel like it's kind of tricky. You don't feel like dating at all at this point in your life, right?
I don't feel like
It's not worth the headache.
I was someone asked me about if I'd like to start dating, and I said at the time I said yeah. So she goes, good, I want you to send me a picture with a resume. I'm going to post it online. I said, I'm not into any of that. But that's how people do it now. I said, I'm not into any of that. I said, look, if you meet someone, you think he'd be good for me, fine, call me up. We can arrange it. We can go out together and, go out for dinner or something like that. And then she calls me. Yes, she's got someone she thinks would be perfect for me. Good. Who is it? He's 80 years old. What? I said, he's got one foot in the grave. She goes, yeah, but he's very young, 80 years old. Then it brought back memories of all the kooky guys when I was in my 20s that people fixed me up with. The type of some guys you went out with where, hey, this would be a really good potential, marriage partner, and I feel almost, I can understand why they fixed us up, because I think there was a lot of potential there. There were some guys we got along very well with, and it just I don't know. We went out for a few dates, but it didn't have that that click. You know what I mean? after a few days, we realized, hey, this is not that there was nothing wrong with them, but this was just not a match. This was a mismatch. But the shotgunner did make did make a good decision. That this was a really good individual, good grounded, intelligent individual. But there were some guys I went up with where I thought, what must this person think of me that they matched me with this?
And yeah, I mean, I guess you get subconscious. What kind of guy would you be interested in? Like, what kind of personality?
Somebody who's very like very even keeled, very calm, very even keeled, and someone who likes to travel. I think I would be looking more for, at my age, a lot of people are looking for like travel partners
Mm-hmm.
and just social part. It's like more of a social thing. Someone to go out to concerts with, go out to dinner with, go away for a weekend someplace, travel a little bit. I was surprised I found when I was in Panama, I was looking up different, tours that I was interested in. And I was surprised to find that some of those tours do not, will not permit single people to buy a single ticket. You have to be a couple, or it has to be at least two people buying tickets for that particular tour.
Hmm.
Disappointed me a lot.
So I guess,
I mean, I'm a little, I'm sure there's economic reasons for it, but something, it's like, come on, you have a lot of single people these days, single, very independent single people who are traveling by themselves. And that's like almost like discrimination. I mean, not to let them sign up for a tour, for a group, for a group, actually group tour, sign up for a group tour because you're a single person and you're not traveling with someone.
that is kind of rude and frustrating.
The main one that I wanted to go on was um, there was a tour of a coffee plantation and factory,
Mm.
and I really wanted to go on that, and I couldn't do it. It had to be two people, minimum of two people. So I ran into a couple that were actually taking that tour, and they told me that what it was it's two people. They have a little shuttle plane, and you go to this like little private airfield, and they actually fly you over to I don't know if it was part of Panama or Costa Rica, to this coffee plantation, and you spend the day there, and they fly you back. And this couple was going on that particular tour the very next day.
Hmm. Okay. Well, at least, I mean, there was a solution to it, but it's very sad and frustrating,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I guess, do you have any fears, like, when it comes to dating, because you don't want to go into the same baloney you had when you were younger, this back and forth, or do you feel more calm and relaxed and whatever happens, happens?
Well, um, my fear would be winding up with somebody who, in the beginning, like seems very even keeled, very nice, like a very nice individual, and then finding out later that he's got a temper, he starts yelling, or he starts, criticizing. I don't need that.
I understand.
Yeah, that happens sometimes when you date somebody and they seem like a really decent individual, and then something happens that you see this very dark side of them that you weren't expecting to see. It can be very frightening.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if I want. I don't know if I want to, handle having some sort of crazy guy in my life anymore.
my question then is this something that, like, because of a fear that you've experienced, or a fear because you just have read a lot of stories and you're trying to be cautious?
Something. It's not a fear. It's not exactly a fear, but it's like, the reality of life is, that stuff like this can happen.
No, I
And
understand that.
I don't know if I want to go through that. I think at this point, I just want to be happy. I'm
Okay.
enjoying my grandchildren and my children. I'm watching my children with their families, and like I said, I'm enjoying. I'm traveling. I have my music students. I'm enjoying teaching music and working where I'm working, and
Just living it the way it is.
just kind of enjoying life. You know, I'm thinking about like during the summertime of taking some, like 2 or 3 day excursions, different places.
Yeah. No, it's good. I'm curious enough to know. It's just like, because from my experience, worrying too much about the worst case scenario creates the worst case scenario. You know what I mean?
It's called what's that called?
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
What's it called again?
Self-fulfilling
Yeah,
prophecy.
right. Yeah. They
So
talk, when I was going for teacher training, when taking my courses in ed psych and fundamentals of education, they talked a lot about that, about teachers purposely setting up classroom situations where their worst fears are going to be realized because of the type of atmosphere that they inadvertently or that they unconsciously set up in their classrooms.
That's what I'm saying. If
Yeah.
you've because you mentioned a lot of times growing up even about like being careful of people that are tricksters with their personality. And you've mentioned it ever since I was a kid with stories like that.
Mhm.
So like, has that something occurred to you, happened to you, or was that something that you happened to friends of yours, or it's just like an innate fear that it's never happened in your entire life, but you just still worry about it, like an anxiety.
Well, you're talking about manipulators?
Manipulate. I think it's just, yeah. The frustration I have is that like a lot of people have this idea.
Particular guy that I did, yeah, that
One guy did that to you,
he was a manipulator. Yeah,
and how many years ago was this?
I'm not going to say. Use
You
your
see my
imagination.
point? You see my point? You see my point?
No, but it concerned me that I didn't see this person for what that I was vulnerable.
How old were you?
19, 20 years old.
Okay. Are you the same
But
person?
no, but
So do you think it's going to happen to you again?
I don't think it would happen again. I
So
think
there's nothing to worry about.
I think at this point I would be able to sniff somebody like that out. I have enough life experiences to sniff somebody out like that.
Yeah. But you still feel hurt by it though. Because I remember as a kid you talked about it. You still talk about it now. You still feel hurt by it. How long did
Not hurt, but
scorn?
yet realizing that I guess realizing that there are a lot of people, narcissistic type psychopaths and manipulators that are
Well,
out. Yeah,
yeah, such is
you got
life.
to be
And
careful.
you roll with your punches. You get burnt and you learn from it and you move on. You try not to like let it hurt you or obsess over it. You know,
Me
like
obsessed, really.
yeah, obsessing over it and then,
My philosophy is forgive and forget. I don't hold grudges much.
but it keeps you young, Ema. It keeps you young. Um, how old was this guy? You were 19. How old was this guy?
Same age.
So what exactly happened? How did you guys meet?
He was working at the college radio station.
Ooh, you did the radio station guy. Okay, the
Yeah.
DJ. And what happened? He was acting really pretentious and cool, and you fell in love with him. You realized he was an obnoxious jerk.
Yeah.
Oh wow, such textbook interest. I figured it out in 2 seconds, and you've been scored ever since. Some pretentious pompous ass that was 20 years old working at some like NPR station. You don't understand the music. I do. It's all about the love and connection. Oh my gosh, tell me more.
I had a chance though to run into him a few years later at Helen Reddy and John Denver performed at our college. Another girl he was dating by that time. As a matter of fact, I think they did get married. I think they did get engaged and married, but they came to the concert, and I happened to run into them. And so, of course, everyone says we're walking back to our cars. Okay, what'd you think of the concert? Yada yada. These two sourpusses did nothing but rip the concert apart. About Helen Reddy was, oh my goodness, good thing John Denver came on because we could barely stand Helen Reddy.
You
So I thought
dodged,
those two deserve each other. Yeah.
yeah, you dodged a bullet. Some
Two,
pretentious,
two, yeah, two overly critical sourpusses. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's just it's not that big of a deal. It's just life, and it's just another story in life. You know, just that's kind of how I see a lot of my experiences. Was just like it's just a story in life. It's just like a good A24 episode movie. It's like one of those indie movies.
Why do you think movies about dating and marriage are so popular?
Because it's interesting.
It's life,
Yeah,
life's experience. Yeah.
yeah. So the guy got. Did you ever meet the guy afterwards or no?
Trying to think. Yeah. When I was doing my student teaching, he got a sub job in the classroom across from mine.
Oh wow. How'd that work out?
Oh, let's put it this way. Those kids brought him down a few pegs.
Oh, good.
They sniffed out his ego. Kids do this, especially these are sixth graders. Sixth graders. Oh, I know. I heard him in the other room screaming from up the top of his head. These kids. One kid running out of the room and him opening up the door, grabbing the kid by him. Get back, get here.
Nice.
I started laughing.
Good. He got humbled. That's awesome. I love it. Okay, so it's just like it doesn't matter. It's just this guy just had his own story, and you were just like a blink on his radar story part of it. You don't have
dead already.
You don't have to hold on to it. Exactly. You don't have to think about it. Like it's fine. You're worried that you were manipulated by some pretentious a-hole, when you were 19. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Go ahead and enjoy yourself at, your ripe old age of 39. Just go ahead and spend time with some people. Take a shot. Go ahead. Go to some singles events. See what happens.
Actually, I am going to a singles event soon.
Ooh. When are you going?
Next weekend, next Shabbos.
Nice. So a Shabbos getaway?
No, it's here in the neighborhood.
Okay.
It's a walking distance. And I'll tell you, I don't go there necessarily to really meet people. I just enjoy.
That's another episode of Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. Thanks for listening to us kvetch, reminisce, and of course, get a little motherly advice along the way. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your favorite Jewish mother or anyone who needs a little guilt in their life. Got a story, question, or just want to say hi? Send us a message. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, call your mother. She worries.